I'm a very optimistic person. When the media phone me up, they know that I'm the person that says that species are going extinct 1,000 times faster than they should be. So they want me to talk about all the depressing news, and I don't want to do that. I'm very encouraged by a number of things. I'm encouraged by the number of just wonderful local groups of people around the world in developing countries who are taking control over their environment. I think we need to empower them, we need to find them resources, we need to encourage them. I'm encouraged by that. I see a lot of wonderful things going on. But the growth of citizen science is extraordinary. When Scott Larry, who was one of the co-founders of iNaturalist, and I were talking about what we wanted to do when he was a graduate student, we thought that there ought to be a role for citizen scientists. In the first year and a half, iNaturalist got 1 million observations. We were very excited by that. And now, I saw Scott last week, we're getting 1.5 million observations a month around the world. And now with these very, very clever things where iNaturalist, you take a photograph and you hope somebody will identify it. What this fantastic work does is you take a leaf and the computer tells you what it is. And I think all of those measures are ways of getting young people in particular back into nature. And that's what we need to do. I mean, we want to get children away from the video games. And I think this is the greatest tool for surveying biodiversity, but it has to be used in the field, and I think that's happening.
So you're optimistic?
I'm optimistic. I think there's a lot of things we can do. I'm encouraged by meeting people across the world's tropics who are doing things that matter to them in their countries.
Dr. Park, are you optimistic?
Well, I'm trying to be optimistic. I think the major problem about the environmental issue is that usually we don't really distinctly feel about it. I live in a city, and most of us are living in a city. If you ask me how many butterflies I have seen last month, several months, none is my answer. So it is very difficult for us to understand the problem at the very beginning step for solving the environmental issues. I think is a challenge. So I think, as what Professor Pimm said, I think it is very important that we let the young ones go into nature, see the nature, and they have to first know about what it is they are trying to protect, or what it is they are trying to preserve first. But I think in city area, we are failing in that in many aspects. So that I think is a problem, but yes, well, I was in the beginning thought that when Professor Pimm gives us a speech, he's going to yell at us and saying that, look how many species are being extincted, you shame on you guys, and so forth. I thought, but he is being very optimistic, so I think I should be very optimistic as well. But I think we should go over that first.
I would make a very bad criticism because I don't have any great sense of how to make money. But I have, I think, a very good sense of how to inspire people. And I think there are various models about how you get people to do things. There's no doubt that there's what I call the prostitution model. You pay people. But there's also what I call the field of dreams model, that if you build it, people will come. And I'd be much more successful at the latter. And I think the extraordinary thing about these crowdsourced apps, these citizen science apps, is iNaturalist is not making money off people. And it's not even having to offer rewards to people who who have 1,000 sightings per month. People are just excited by the prospect of going out into nature and having a name for something. That there's no monetary reward in that. There is just a satisfaction of holding your leaf up to your cell phone and having it give you a name for it. It enriches your world in a very non-monetary way. Now, I do have some experience of that at the global level. The most terrifying 1 hour of my career was about 15 years ago, when I got to spend 1 hour of time with Daniel Goldin, who was the head of NASA. I used all my influence to get an hour of his time. He was known to be a complete monster. He wouldn't come into the room unless you were sitting there with your first slide up ready to go. And if he got bored, he would just get up and leave without a word. And I said, I want the world twice. I want complete global coverage of the world using Landsat images from 1990 and 2000. Because up to that point, if you wanted to buy a satellite image, you had to pay $2,000. And if I had a satellite image and you had a satellite image, I couldn't say, I will show you mine if you will show me yours. We weren't allowed to share. So I said, I want the world twice. I want complete global coverages in 1990 and 2000, free for everybody in the world. And he said, we don't do that at NASA. All we do at NASA is to develop new technologies. And I was ready for that question. And I said, you're not going to have new technologies if you can't encourage people to play, to have new ideas. You're not going to make any money out of this whatsoever. And NASA is, in the Department of Commerce, it's a commercial enterprise. I said, I want the world twice for free for everybody now. And I got it. And of course, without that, there wouldn't have been Google Earth and all sorts of other things. Now, when we look at that imagery, we think, ooh, Landsat, it's so crude. We expect to have really high-resolution imagery of the world every day. And so the entire remote sensing community has got into the business of having fun, of playing, of putting stuff out there, and developing a whole bunch of new ideas. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people out there making money, but there's definitely a role for getting down on your knees to Daniel Goldin and saying, please, can I have the world twice, because it's going to be fun.
I think your question is about the motivation. When I was thinking about that topic, actually I turned into the papers that Professor Pimm said whether we should turn the young one's eye away from, which was the game research papers that was related to the video game, social network games. They were talking about what motivated people to put their images in social media, which does not bring them any commercial benefits. Other than money, economical benefits, people look for a lot of things, I think. And economical benefit is one of the tools that, one of the resources they require for the existence. But for humans to exist well, they need more than that resource. They need the interest of others, they need the connections, they need the fame, they need the honors. Those are other motivations that are as popular as I think economic benefits. And people do move for that. One of the good examples about citizen science is something called folding. It's in the field of molecular biology. What they do is they try to predict the shape of the protein folding. The thing is that the shape of the protein determines what kind of function it's going to do inside your body. What they are trying to predict is the shape of the protein that is related to cancer, HIV, and cold. A huge topic, very difficult questions. The difficulty in predicting those shape of the protein is because it can be folded in many ways. Therefore, what they do is they run through the computer simulations and then look into the research. But the thing is, if you run through the computer simulation, it usually shows you a shape of certain trend. Therefore, after all, the scientists had folded by themselves to see the various patterns, but there were limitations. So what they did was they created a game of folding the protein, and they made it available for everybody. And in the beginning, the people said, who would play such a game? But the fact that they are dealing with such a huge issue motivated people, and they were able to find out the shape of the protein that was related to the HIV. They were looking for it for 30 years or so, but they could be able to find that within a month once they released the game. And they published that in Nature, and also they put the player of the game in the paper as well. So I think there are more than the economic benefit to motivate the people, and there was, I think, one good reason.
Species are the second leading cause of extinction. About 25% of all plants occur on islands up to the size of New Zealand. And islands are greatly threatened by invasive species. I've not been to Okinawa yet, high on my list of priorities. But I'm fairly certain that, like most islands, small islands, invasive species are going to be a problem. Very expensive to take care of, but the profession is getting better and better at eliminating particularly invasive animals like rabbits and goats and cats and rats from islands of increasingly large size. It's a seminar in itself, it's a major problem. We need to stop moving species around. The issue of indigenous peoples is interesting and multifaceted. Being in the forest with my Warani friends, no clothes and all, is an amazing experience. It's actually quite terrifying, because they were born in the forest, so they have no sense of being lost. You know, home is the forest, so if you wander off and you have to spend the night in the forest, you're spending the night at home. That's very disconcerting if you're a Westerner who doesn't particularly want to just, scrape the leaves and sleep on the floor. There are some things that they know extraordinarily well, and some things that they are very ignorant about biologically. I think the important thing is to respect their knowledge, to respect the fact it's different. But above everything else, to realize that it's their choice what to do with their world. And in many ways, it's a great advantage being British, because no other country in the world has interfered with so many other countries for so long that it gives you a great sensitivity about not doing that anymore. So we work with local communities to let them get on with what they're doing. What my former student is doing with the Warani is, however, to codify, to record traditional knowledge. The gentleman I showed you, Penty and Moy, were born as nomads in the forest. They have amazing amounts of traditional knowledge. Their children were educated in Spanish-speaking schools and were taught to despise traditional knowledge. And now my student, Charo, is helping the grandparents teach the grandchildren about what they know, but recording it with sort of modern technology, with cell phones, with cameras, making sure the traditional names, the traditional natural history is recorded. So I'm not a purist, but I do see that there is a chance to use technology to make sure the children begin to learn what their grandparents knew and what their parents had taught to us.
I hope you also respected the Warani dress code when you went to present.
Okay, yes, I do, and I think that it is very precious resource that we can work with. That's why when I was developing the app, I was especially very concerned with the font size of the text. Trying to make it as simple as possible so that from 7 years old boy to 17-year-old person can use the app. When one of the engineers said that their mother and father has been retired and they climb the mountains every day to exercise, what they do is they take hundreds of pictures of the plant. So yes, I am very well aware of that. And what I try to do is, I know that more and more as people go wood, and when I get to the wood age, I think I will include it in that project web. But they are kind of excluded from these technologies. That only the fast catchers and young people are targeted when they are making the UX interfaces and those technologies. Yes, I'm aware that I think the population of the elderly people will grow larger and larger, especially in Korea, it's actually growing. And yes, the technology we should include those people in this kind of communities.
So,
thank you for thinking about the font size of people in their 70s. Retirement age begins at 60, 65, and they all know how to enlarge the screen if need be. If you just open up the opportunities for people, and not just young people, young people, young people.
so I show you my last slide, which was a bunch of school children planting trees. But you might have asked, from whom did they get those trees? And the answer is from grandmothers. Because we, or this our partners, recruit grandmothers to collect the seeds and grow the plants. We find their husbands are completely worthless. The husbands typically want to look after their chickens and their cows. But the grandmothers are really smart. And I wish I'd have had time to show you some pictures of them, because one of my fondest memories was there's this wonderful woman, absolutely no training whatsoever. I'm not sure she can read or write. But she has learned how to collect seeds and how to germinate them. She is completely self-taught. She's worked it out all by herself. If you ask her how she does it, it will take you at least a day for her to tell you about each species. And as a consequence to this, 2 years ago when I was there, she was having a cement floor laid down in her home and was putting beautiful blue tile on it. Now the significance of that is, I think, the biggest change in a person's life is when they go from a dirt floor to a tile floor. That is a huge step up. So she has this beautiful tile floor. Her husband is still looking after the chickens. And you know what? If it was a young person doing that, they'd be thinking about how they were going to, commercialize the enterprise, how they were going to, grow their business to be large. She is very happy to be a nursery woman. She's going to stay in that community. She's lived there all her life. I think, we have to recognize that there are different segments of society who can do really wonderful and different jobs. I think there are increasing numbers of studies that show that as we become more urban, and we are becoming more urban, all the countries are. Countries like China, it's part of the plan. China has a 5-10-year plan to move, tens of millions of people to cities to provide, services for them. The studies that I'm talking about show very clearly that people are happier, work better, and healthier if they're surrounded by green spaces. And I think if we ignore that, we're going to pay a very, very heavy price for that. I think we need to have those green spaces very much for our health and very much for our efficiency. People just work better if they can walk in nature for a few minutes.